Like most people, okay, maybe not most people, I became a pro wrestling fan during the boom of the 1980s. The organization at the heart of my fandom was World Class Championship Wrestling. The WWE now owns the World Class Library, but they don't own quite everything. So, here's 5 World Class Championship Wrestling matches, not owned by WWE, on YouTube. And before we get started, I do want to point out the picture quality for some of these videos is not particularly high. These are all transferred from VHS copies of matches recorded by fans off KTVT Channel 11 out of Dallas, Texas, which are the only copies in existence because Channel 11 actually recorded over their tapes of the broadcast. That's why these were not included in WWE's purchase of the World Class Library. Number 1, Ric Flair versus Mike Von Erich. A bit lost in the landscape of wrestling history is the 10-minute match between the then 2-time NWA World Champion Flair and the 19-year-old Von Erich. Taking place on January 30th, 1984, the match was part of David Von Erich's feud with Flair in his quest to win the world title. If Flair beat Mike, David would never get another world title shot. If Mike beat Flair or held him to a 10-minute draw, David got a title shot with the disqualification rule waived, meaning if Flair got himself DQ'd, he would lose the belt. Honestly, it's not a great match as Mike is still very green, having only debuted a couple of months earlier. Still, it's an interesting look at a moment in world-class history that faded after David's death less than a month later. David also appears briefly at ringside near the end of the match. Number 2, the Midnight Express debut. This was the second fall of a Two Falls TV main event on Channel 11. Yeah, they did that every week. Rising stars in the Mid-South territory, the Midnight Express, consisting of Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton, began a somewhat short and turbulent run in World Class in November 1984. Of course, the Midnight Express wouldn't be complete without manager Jim Cornette at ringside, also giving a taste of the then 23-year-old's vocal talents as he was on the road to what many people say is the best wrestling managerial career in history. A tag match against the team of Buck Zumhoff and John Tatum. This is a great example of old-school tag team wrestling some of today's teams could learn a thing or two from. With kayfabe now gone, it's also hard not to point out the fact that bad guy Bobby Eaton is known as one of the nicest guys in wrestling, while good guy Buck Zumhoff is currently serving a prison sentence for criminal sexual misconduct. Number 3, Kerry Von Erich and Johnny Mantel versus Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts. Today, Johnny Mantel is the president of the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum in Wichita Falls, Texas, a fitting position for someone to spend over 35 years in pro wrestling. Mantel's most notable years were spent in world-class wrestling, and this tag match was an opportunity for the popular mid-carder to share the ring with 3 main event stars. Mantel teams with Kerry Von Erich against 2 of the Freebirds, Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts, at the height of the Von Erich-Freebirds legendary feud. Obviously, most of the focus is on Kerry and the Birds, but Mantel gets his share of moments in the 10-minute match. Taking place in October 1983, this was less than a year after the famous steel cage door incident that ignited the Freebird-Von Erich feud, and gives just a hint of what kept fans captivated. Number 4, David Von Erich versus Kamala. I have to admit, this is a little bit of a personal favorite. The first time I saw pro wrestling live as a wee young James, the main event was David Von Erich versus Kamala, and this match was the first time the two met in the ring during their feud in 1983. Up to this point, Kamala had been presented as an unstoppable monster, crushing every opponent he faced. In a confrontation a few days earlier, David applied the legendary Von Erich Iron Claw to Kamala's head, proving to be the first time the Ugandan giant had a weakness. Turning to run anytime David even showed the claw, it was the first time fans saw the big man show fear. The match turns into an all-star event as Kamala's handler Friday and manager Skandar Akbar get involved. Kerry Von Erich, Mike Von Erich, Iceman Parsons, and Johnny Mantel also come from the back as things get out of hand. Number 5, Kevin and Kerry Von Erich versus Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts, with Michael Hayes and David Von Erich at ringside. I don't know if this could be a list of world-class matches without at least one between the Von Erichs and the Freebirds. This match from January of 1984 was a Texas Tornado match, all 4 men in the ring at once, between Kerry and Kevin Von Erich and Freebirds Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts. All the Freebirds and Von Erichs get involved as David Von Erich and Michael Hayes are official seconds for their teams at ringside. As you might expect, they don't simply stay at ringside. A great combination of old school wrestling and the outright brawling that was part of every Von Erich Freebird match. The style the Von Erichs like to work in is evident as they did not like to plan out every move of a match. It worked great as it looks like a fight rather than a choreographed routine posing as a wrestling match. It's a great example of why World Class was so popular. Well, if you like taking a look at some World Class wrestling, you can click the icon in the upper right hand corner or the link in the description to see any of these matches. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, let me know with a like, a subscribe, and a comment below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.